We help our whole region get where we want to be. Get on board at rideonmetro.org.
News, traffic, and the latest on the Redbirds. This is the Redbird Rush Hour on KMOX.
All right, Redbird Rush Hour on a Thursday. This is a scheduled edition. Matt Pauley.
How about that?
Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here on 104.1 KMOX. Obviously, all baseball this hour. I want to point out we have a bunch of topics planned and a lot of, we have a list every day of things that would cover 3 hours, but we got to fit them into 1 hour. So we have a lot, but I want to create a regular spot on shows for some listener interaction. So if you have thoughts and you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook, just throw them into the chat. And thoughts can be anything, man. You got questions, you got opinions, whatever you want, throw it at us. And you can do it there, and you can do it on the text line at 314-436-7900. So later on in the show, I have a couple of segments completely set aside for that. Because sometimes, for you guys that have been with us from the beginning of the Redbird Rush Hour, we got a little more freedom time-wise here recently, starting yesterday. So we have more time to do more things, and that's one of the things we want to do more of.
So basically all you got to do is you can text in 314-436-7900, or like Kevin said, leave that comment on the video chat, and we will respond to those. We've got segments spread out, so you don't have to be directly responding to anything that we say. Now, if you do have responses to stuff that we're talking about, feel free to bring it in. But if you've just got Cardinals topics on your minds that you want addressed, get those in here, and we will do that later on in the show.
And we both kind of like to fight, so don't be afraid. It's okay.
Yeah.
We find that as fun. It's not offensive in any way, and hopefully you'll take it the same way if we fight back.
Yeah,
because it's meant to be guys talking sports. And I don't know about you, Matt. You and I argue about things all the time in the sports office, but friendly.
Right.
And
I
we
never
argue
go
with
home
Tom.
and I don't say, man, that
but
freaking Kevin Wheeler.
We did all that. I'm wearing our Gas House Gang t-shirt. What do you think all of us have done all the times on that? Just what you do. It's fun. Yeah. You're talking ball, and there are going to be disagreements and different views, and we want to have fun with that. All right, so we'll get to that coming up. Again, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter comments, and 314-436-7900 for the text line. Bunch of other things I want to get to. Let's just start big picture, okay? The Cardinals had a great series in Philadelphia. I don't hesitate to say great. You took 2 out of 3 from a top team in the National League, and you could have won the third game. It was a 2-1 pitcher's duel. So you played well 3 straight times.
Not to cut you off, but I think something that Oliver Marmol said that's notable. Those are the kind of games you want to lose.
Yeah.
Because you don't feel bad.
It's a real baseball game.
Yeah. You don't feel bad about yourself losing that game.
Right. It wasn't like a bum performance here. It was a good game. You got outplayed.
Yeah. That's
all that was. And that's fine. It's a good team. If you're getting outplayed consistently by the Pirates, well, then you got a problem. But when you get outplayed occasionally by a team like Philly, fine. No big deal. But you've won 10 of your last 11 games. You just took 2 of 3 from Philly. Yesterday, to me, the most impressive thing, and we talked about it, was picking up Sonny Gray. He had a bad day, and the team went out and put up 2 touchdowns. So
and
that's
twice.
great.
So you got the lead, he gave it up. You got the lead, he gave it up. Your ace, your number one starter, does that twice against a World Series contender on the road, and you still find a way to win.
You pick him up.
What a great character win that was.
And he'll pick you up at some point.
Sure.
And he's done it already.
Yeah.
There might have been plenty of games where the team was in it or won because he performed and the lineup didn't.
The only real discussion point on Sonny Gray that I come out of yesterday is last year he didn't perform on the road as well as he did at home.
The home road thing is interesting.
So for that to continue on and to be that pronounced, but again, that's a really good Phillies team.
So I got a big picture question. I'm going to throw it at you, and obviously anybody that's checking in with us, so feel free to throw it into the chat or on the text line at 314-436-7900. So how much of what we're seeing, not the wins and losses, right? You're not going to sustain 10 out of 11. It's not happening. But how much of what we're seeing that's leading to that to you is sustainable performance versus hot streak? So there's really, again, not a downside to it. This is not, they're not this good. No, nobody's that good. Nobody is 10 out of 11 good. But I think what their record is overall is an accurate indicator of what they are.
Yeah, it's an interesting point because if to your point, the team's not going to win 10 out of 11, they're not going to win, 15 out of 21,
right,
I think it is. They are
Nobody does that.
No, they're not going to keep up that pace. But the things that they are doing are leading to wins. I don't feel like there's much that's going. I would say the one thing that probably is not sustainable is getting the length that they have gotten from starting pitching as much as we've seen lately. That run where it went 7-7-9. what you're not going to get, I'm doing math real quick, you're not going to get 23 innings out of 3 of your 5 starters one time through the rotation very often.
Right. And the way I guess I would put this is, we're talking about, the 9 in a row and 10 out of 11, but also just like you pointed out, like 16 out of 21. Like this goes back almost a month of the team playing better. And to me, there are a couple of pitchers like Eric Fetty's May is not sustainable at 1.37. But I think if you look at his last 5 or 6 starts and you combine it all, I don't think there's anything in the rotation that strikes me as they can't keep doing this. And I'm not talking about the last 2 starts for a guy or even the last 3. I'm just talking about, let's just say the last 3 or 4 weeks, this 20, 21, 22 game period. I don't think the big picture there is unsustainable. I actually think the bullpen looks more sustainable now than it did at any point earlier, because 2 new guys are a part of the back end of it in Graceffo and Matz, guys that weren't there 2-3 weeks ago because Matz was starting in the 6-man rotation and wasn't, when he was being used as a reliever, wasn't being used as a leverage guy in close games late. But I give them credit. My criticism of this team for the last couple of years and in the offseason when we were doing Gas House Gang was sometimes they just don't adapt to the circumstances that are in front of them. They take too long or they take a weird approach. And this year they've done more of that adapting on the fly, which I find to be interesting. But now you've picked that. And maybe there are some other guys that can get in on the good side, like Romero's looking better. So I think that can be. And I still think the lineup has another gear. I don't know that you're going to hit what's the team batting average right now?
262.
I don't know that you're going to hit 262. Maybe you will, but I don't know that that's going to hold up. But I think there's more power coming.
I do too. I think there's a bunch of guys in the lineup. I think you can get a little bit more from Lars Nootbaar. I think from a power standpoint, maybe you can see a bit more from Brendan Donovan. The overall numbers that Mason Wynn and Wilson Contreras have right now, they're bogged down a bit by slow starts. So those are going to continue to look better and better as they move forward. Now, on the other side of that, I don't think we know for sure what you're going to get from Victor Scott II moving forward. He's looked really, really good, but how sustainable is that?
Yeah, and so there are parts of this that are concerns, right? I mean, again, Jordan Walker and Nolan Gorman are still on the side of not figuring it out, of not going in the right direction. They're both striking out too much. There's no power production because they're just not putting the bat on the ball. I mean, it really is that simple for the two of them. 2 of them combined have 200 at bats and they have 3 home runs. Yeah. They're just not making enough contact. And, they do hit it hard. When Walker hits it, he hits it hard. He just doesn't hit it enough.
It was really good to see him get a big hit yesterday.
Oh, that was really big.
Yeah,
that was really big. And that was, for those that missed it, that was in the first game against Jose Alvarado, who was a lefty throwing 100. So, that's not.
It wasn't quite on yesterday.
No, he was wild. He's always wild, but his stuff is still nasty as hell. But even with that, though, even with those 2 guys that coming into the year, we all thought would be pretty important guys, pretty critical guys. Even with those guys not doing anything, the offense has been good.
Sure. Yeah. And I can sit here and say, you know what? I think they're going to get a little bit more out of Nootbaar. I think they're going to get more out of XYZ. I can't sit here and say that about Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker.
No.
I don't know what they're going to get
It's
out of
an
those
unknown
guys.
at the moment. But, Burleson's gotten hot lately. As much as I've questioned whether or not he should be the DH, I don't think there's any question right now he should be.
Yeah, his month of May has been absolutely fantastic. He's a .313 hitter with a .978 OPS. In the month of May, 3 home runs, 9 RBIs.
I mean, still the overall batted ball numbers aren't great on him, but there's no arguing what the last 2 weeks have looked like.
Looked really good.
So he's given you a chance to win, and that's obviously a big part of this. All right, so I'd say that we'll continue that conversation. We can talk a little bit more about the team's moves, what they've done so far, and how their decision process compares to all of ours on the outside. We're going to cover all of that. And again, your comments, your questions and opinions coming up later in the show. Couple of segments set aside for that, so you can send messages on the chat, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And, of course, text 314-436-7900 right here on the Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax relief 6481. That's 800-575-6481. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Hey, it's Matt Pauley talking to you about i3 Broadband. I talk about them a lot. I love them. They are my internet service provider at home. They have been for a while, so this is not just something that I don't actually use. I use them at home. I always talk to you about the reliability and St. Louis folks being involved and everything, and all that's true. But let's talk about price for a second. I'm spending less money on my service than I did when I was with the cable company, and I'm getting much better service. They've got a special deal where you can get their introductory rate at their introductory service at $19.99 per month for a full year. That's 250 megabytes per second. So that is their introductory rate for that. And that's good enough for a lot of folks. And that's about $10 less than what the cable company is going to charge you per month over their entry level speeds for the first year. So just by going to that, you get $120 back per year, which isn't bad. You want to get to the 1 gig service, the 2 gig service, the 8 gig service. You're still going to be saving money compared to what you would get with the cable company. Find out if they're available in your neighborhood. Put your address in at i3broadband.com. That's i3broadband.com. See if they're available to you. If they are, I'd sign up with them because they're great. i3 Broadband.
The legendary Fast Eddie of Fast Eddie's Bon Air and Cardinals Hall of Famer Jason Isringhausen.
Hey, Izzy, what's going on, man? Looks kind of like you got something on your mind.
Well, Eddie boy, I'm thinking you may need to change the name of your place from Fast Eddie's to $5 Eddie's.
$5 Eddie's? Man, why in the world would I...
An overhead door company for same-day service. 314-781-5200 or schedule online at overheaddoorstlouis.com. I'm Roger Brand in the Michaels Flooring Outlet.com Traffic Center.
This is the Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX.
All right, let's jump right back into the Redbird Rush Hour. Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here. Obviously, questions, comments, opinions, welcome. Throw them at us. We got 2 segments set aside later on in the show to get into all of what you guys have to bring. So it can be via YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter when you're watching us on the stream. You can also text 314-436-7900. Matt, we were talking about something before the break or before the show in the sports office that you wanted to bring up, and I'm fascinated about it because I was thinking about the dynamic a couple of days ago separately from our conversation. And I always find the gap between when we, and by we, I mean all of us on the outside of a team, fans, media people, all of us, the gap between when we start talking about what should change and when teams decide it's actually time to change is always fascinating to me, because I think we on the outside are a little quick on the draw.
Yep.
I admit that I am. And I think teams are a little too slow on the draw. And I wish that we could find a middle ground where it kind of made more sense.
Yeah, we were specifically like bullpen changes this year and whether or not Helsley should be asked to do more and, all that stuff. We were having these conversations, and it was when everything was kind of burning down around the bullpen and they were losing games because of the bullpen. And I think a lot of us were calling for there to be changes. And look, they did make some changes, maybe not as extreme as some of us were asking for, but in many ways they kind of stayed the course, and eventually it fixed itself. And when stuff isn't going right, there's always a line that eventually you have to address it. I think that with just teams in general, and certainly for the Cardinals, that line that you have to cross for them to start addressing it in a major way is a little bit further than people in the media and fans are asking for. But they kind of stayed the course in many ways when it came to the bullpen, making a tweak here and a tweak there, but they didn't make like these major changes. And it seemingly has worked out on the other side.
Well, I think they did make a couple of major changes, though. I mean, they made the decision that we were talking about, again, going back to this, probably a week and a half before the team did it, was like, okay, you don't need 6 starters anymore, but you need Steven Matz at the back end of the game.
Right.
Because you don't have enough leverage guys, and with his experience and the way he's throwing the ball, you can rely on him in those situations.
And that was the domino.
And he can get righties and lefties out.
I think that's the domino that changed everything in the bullpen.
I do too. And then, of course, Graceffo has been a recent addition to the positive side there. That one was, again, a bit of a process, because we had to realize, okay, Roy Croft needs to go down. Okay, Ryan Fernandez needs to go down. Like, we had to go through okay, Riley O'Brien's not ready to help us, and Rodri Munoz is not ready. Like, you went through a cycle to get to it, but you got to it. And I think that's an important thing that I have hammered for at least 2 or 3 years, and a lot in the offseason. And I think we're seeing more of it, which is the team being more adaptable. They're not as stuck on doing things as they've been in the past. They're not moving as quickly maybe as we do. But again, I don't know that that's a bad thing. I think maybe it's better that it's not as quick as we are, but maybe it should be a little quicker than they are.
I also think it's, specifically to Gordon Graceffo, he's somebody who showed that he should be in that spot. Now that can change.
No, that's right. He did. He went out and performed 3 straight times. Yeah.
But at the same time, some guy, Matt Swanson did everything you could have asked of him in his first 3 appearances. He had the one outing against Cincinnati where he gave up a couple runs. But even what he did yesterday in that final inning where he struck out all 3 dudes that he faced, the numbers on Swanson right now is a 2.70 ERA, a whip under 1, and an average against of 136. Tiny sample size, but he's been impressive. So something I hear from guys a lot during spring training is they feel like this is an organization, and this applies more to the minor leagues than the big leagues, but you'll see where I'm going. I hear it from all the time where guys say this is an organization that, compared to the rest of baseball, it doesn't matter if you're a bonus baby. It doesn't matter where you're at. If you perform, you're going to get an opportunity. Now, high draft picks, bonuses,
always going to be ahead.
They're always going to have a little bit of an inside track. But I do think the Cardinals have a reputation for letting performance get you more opportunities. And I think that's also important at the big league level. And that's what we're seeing with Gordon Graceffo, where he showed things both in performance and also underlying numbers where the Cardinals, at least for now, can be very trusting of what he's doing.
I think that what you're describing is accurate. And I would also say, though, that there are still some scholarships at the big league level.
Yes, there are.
And again, I'm not losing my mind on this. I want to be clear. This is not really a complaint. It's more of an observation that will become a talking point at some point. Nolan Arenado should not be batting 4th. He's batting 4th because he's Nolan Arenado. Contreras and Herrera are both better than him. They are both outperforming him. They should both be hitting behind your big 3 guys who are getting on base all the time. And again, I'm not panicking about it. This is not a pound the table because they're winning. I'm not going to be an idiot and pound the table when they're winning. But at some point, the team is going to cool down. And at some point, that issue is going to be a question mark.
So this is going to sound like semantics or fuzzy math or something like that. I hope people understand where I'm going. I, in theory, don't have a problem with Nolan Arenado being your 4-hitter. But what I do have a problem with is Wilson Contreras being in the 5 spot and Ivan Herrera being in the 6 spot.
Right, but the point is you have better choices.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not that I want to see Arenado move down because I'm so uncomfortable with him in the 4 spot. I think that there's an opportunity to score more runs if you get more at bats for Contreras and Herrera.
Put your best hitters together, which is what they've done 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
Now, can we just add 4 and 5 to that too? Again, total nitpick now because you're winning, but at some point you're going to cool off, and those things are going to matter more. It's Matt Pauley and Kevin Wheeler with you here. We're going to pick up your comments, questions, opinions, everything coming up on the Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX.
Hi, Mia here at the winnings desk of the Missouri Lottery. So, I wanted to write a thank you note for every dollar Missouri Lottery players have
That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit. HIMS.com/JOY.
You're listening to the Redbird Rush Hour on 1041 KMOX.
All right, Redbird Rush Hour. Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here on 1041 KMOX. All right, the listener segments are coming up in the next two. So right after traffic, we're going to dive in. If you have thoughts on the current level of the team, if you have complaints, if you have questions, if there's anything you want to add, anything we've talked about, I wanted to leave this open because in the past, we haven't always had enough time.
Right. We
do have time now, so I'm going to leave time for it if you want to take advantage.
You can text in.
I know it's hard for people sometimes to contribute when the team's going well because nobody's mad about anything, but you're welcome to.
If you got any question about the team, we'll try to address it. 314-436-7900. That's the text line. So you can just text in a question, or like Kevin mentioned, if you're watching us on the video stream, just leave it in the chat and we'll get to it.
Yep, easy enough. All right, so we're going to get to the Game Day Men's Health Peak Performer, get back to the top of your game with Game Day Men's Health. We brought him up already, but I want to spend a minute or two on Alec Burleson because I always want to try to give credit where it's due, especially when it's a player that I haven't been as high on, because his numbers early weren't good. And by early, I mean the first 4.5 weeks, but the last 2 weeks, it started to turn. In May, he started to turn and be more productive. There are still some concerning things in the batted ball numbers, but I think that's probably weighted more toward April than May, right? Because it takes a long time to really change those things.
It does.
Just like later in the year, it takes a long time to change your batting average or whatever. It takes a long time to change your hard hit rate, for example, or the number of barrels. He still chases way too much, but right now he's producing and the team needs it. And, at this stage, Matt, the team is, we're keeping the runway open, but it's not an unlimited runway for Gorman and Walker. It's going to be kind of spotty and periodic for the time being because other people are doing the job. And right now that includes Burleson.
Yeah. If you're Alec Burleson and you've got this 10-game run where you've got a plus 1,000 OPS and you're facing off against a right-hander, I think there's a really good reason to have him in the lineup over Jordan Walker.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, when we're talking about this, it would be different. I would feel differently about it if we're 2 months in and you're 6 games under 500.
Yeah.
At that point, you should be going more to the kids, to Walker and Gorman. But if you're in the position where you are now, which is, all right, you're a quarter of the way through the season, you're close to first place, you're winning, keep winning.
Yeah. And part of this conversation also includes the fact that Ivan Herrera is back, and he's going to catch a day or two, but I think we're going to see Herrera as the DH a lot more often.
Most of the time, I would think.
So if you are losing DH at bats, all of a sudden it gets a lot tougher to get both Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker into the lineup. And then when you consider Alec Burleson, and you can't put Contreras in the DH spot as often now because you got Herrera there.
Yeah.
So some of these first base
not necessary for a first baseman, though. Let's be honest.
But I'm just saying, if you're using that to get Burleson in the lineup at first,
right,
that pathway to at bats for Burleson is gone. The only real pathway for him right now is to play in the outfield over Jordan Walker.
How ridiculous is Herrera, by the way?
Oh my goodness!
I know this is a segment. The feature was Burleson. He's the peak performer, the Game Day Men's Health peak performer. But Ivan Herrera just comes off the injured list like he didn't miss any time at all and just starts hitting. It's crazy how good a hitter he is. And look, that was his track record in the minors. He hit at every level in the minor leagues, so it's not a surprise. But he didn't need much time to just come right back in and hit. And now we're looking at, for his major league career, 323 at bats, a 300 average, 10 homers, and an 832 OPS. And keeping in mind that, a couple years ago, he wasn't as ready then as he is now. This guy could legitimately be a 25 homer dude.
Yeah. So tiny sample size this year because he only played in 12 games.
Yeah.
But his OPS can drop 500 points and he can still have a plus level OPS. He's at 1329. So if that drops 500, you're still an 800 OPS guy. I mean, this is the numbers here he's putting up right now are ridiculous.
And by the way, elite bat speed.
Yes.
It's not luck.
No,
it's not luck. Everything that's happened, he has earned. And that's a fascinating thing because when you combine what he is, which is elite bat speed, a low chase rate, high walk rate, and a low whiff rate. He doesn't swing and miss that much. Those are the makings of a pretty damn good hitter. And obviously, you've heard Ollie talk about it. He talked about it on the Gas House Gang Tuesday. You just got to have them in there. All right, we're going to continue the conversation and get to some of your thoughts. So fire them at us, whether it's on the chat, on the stream, or if it's text line 314-436-7900. We're getting to those on the other side of getting an update on the traffic with Captain Roger Brand.
Traffic from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Well, if you're heading home on westbound Highway 70, there was a minor crash out west. It looks like they cleared it, though, a moment ago. This traffic reports the service of FanDuel Sports Network, but you're still heavy coming out of the city, like Riverview through Jennings Station. There's still slow stuff from Mid-Rivers all the way out through Lake St. Louis, and then a little backup coming through Highway A. That's where we had a crash in the left lane, but I saw the MoDOT trucks moving through. It looked like they cleared it. We have an incident, a crash northbound 170 south of the Rock Road. It's almost jammed back to the Woodson overpass on northbound 170. And it's also slow from the Parkway up to Delmar because of an earlier incident. Southbound is just delayed at Ladue. Westbound 64, Hampton headed out through Bellevue is slow. And then 364 out to 70, some stop-and-go pockets. South 270, bogged down Olive down to Ladue. Both directions between Manchester and 270 still kind of busy. The southbound side again around Doherty Ferry. Southbound 55, Gasconade Bates. Barely a slowdown around McNutt. Downtown looks pretty clear right now. Subscribe today to stream the Cardinals on FanDuel Sports Network and get 30 days free with the code CARDS30day. Go to FanDuelSportsNetwork.com to sign up. I'm Roger Brand in the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
All right, rolling right back into it. It's Redbird Rush Hour with Matt Pauley and Kevin Wheeler with you here. Time to get to as many of your comments, opinions, thoughts as you want to throw at us. So you can do, again, any one of the social media apps that you're watching us on, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube. You can text 314-436-7900. Matt, let's start with Kelly, who's on the stream with us, joining us on Facebook. So he makes an observation at first. He says, we need to keep starters on point. Do we do massive moves? So he says, hopefully we stay healthy, but do we move anybody as long as the team is in contention, which I find to be one of the most interesting things to follow over the next 2 months.
Yeah. So
if you're maintaining this level, not 10 out of 11, but let's say 2, 3, 4 games over 500, how much does that impact what you're deciding in July?
Yeah, I guess we would have to define massive in turn. I don't think like sitting Walker and Gorman, that's not a massive move to me.
Yeah, playing them less is not massive, right?
I don't even know if trading Nolan Arenado at this point is a massive move because the roster works still without Arenado on it. I'm not saying I'm jumping at them to trade him, but if something happens where he gets moved, outside of that, like, can they be big buyers at the deadline if they're around first place? I think they would be buyers. I think they would. Man, they have no starting pitching depth. If they could do something to address that, adding a piece or two in the bullpen, every team that's in contention wants to do that. But in terms of the position player group, I don't know where you would really need to add at this point in time.
It would have to be like move something to get something better, right? That kind of thing. I would agree it would be more likely to be bullpen help because who knows what it looks like. It could be perfect by then if this keeps going, but everybody needs bullpen help for the stretch run because bullpens get heavily relied upon down the stretch and in the postseason. But those are pretty easy to find.
Yeah.
Like relievers are pretty easy to find in July. So I wouldn't call that major. If it was a major one, Matt, I would think you're right. I think it would be a starter that could come in if somebody in the rotation is either scuffling or hurt.
And here's the thing. We were talking about this earlier. Right now, the rotation at Memphis is Michael McGreevy, Ian Bedell, Alex Cornwell, Curtis Taylor, and a bullpen game.
Yeah.
That's your 5-man rotation in Memphis. You've got one dude there who can walk into the big leagues if you need him to, and that's Michael McGreevy. If the Cardinals right now can go find a guy who's got a little bit of big league experience, but is on a AAA roster somewhere just to add, have a 40-man spot, but be able to put him in the AAA rotation just to create a little depth, I'd feel so much more comfortable with that because we've seen it. Look at the Milwaukee Brewers that are losing starters right or left. If you have 1 week like Milwaukee has had all season long losing starters, you're out of guys. So I would think that John Mozeliak has maybe considered that and has had some conversations about bringing in a guy with some big league experience so you can put in the AAA rotation.
Let me ask you this from a different perspective. What do you have to trade that you're willing to move?
That people would want?
That's what I'm saying. What do you have to give up that you would be willing to move? Because you have guys people want, but do you want to move those guys for a short-term run in this particular season?
Yeah, I guess it's
because you're a little thin, as you mentioned. Like you've got injuries with some of your top prospects. We don't know how long that's going to last, but you're not moving Quinn Matthews for a rental. You're not going to move Tink Hentz for a rental. Would you consider moving a Thomas to JC
Not for a rental?
No, I mean, this is kind of the point, right? It's fascinating to me where this team is, because if you're in contention, you may be making bigger decisions.
If they're going to do some rentals, I'm more comfortable with them moving some of the lower level minor league guys, because for the first time in a while, it feels like this team, there's a good number of young guys on the major league roster, and there's a handful of guys who are at Memphis or Springfield who it feels like they are going to be contributors to the major league team within the next 12 months. As someone who doesn't want to see this kind of downturn last very long, and
it might not even last through this year.
Exactly. I want them to be able to have a bright, immediate future.
Yeah, but I also think that some of this depends on your status, right? If you're, let's say you're 5 games over 500, but you're 3 or 4 games out of first place, I'm not sure I'm going to make anything of significance that's going to cost me anything, because I'm going to have a hard time keeping up with the other wild card teams, because you may be in the division race, but probably not the wild card race with how good San Francisco has been, how good Arizona can be, how good the Padres and the Dodgers are, and the Yankees and the Mets and the Phillies. Like, it's going to be a tougher road to hoe there. I think another interesting question is, let's say you're in that position and you don't want to add, or you can't get what you need for what you're willing to part with. Do you still sell?
No.
Would you consider, if you're in the same kind of position you're in right now, moving Ryan Helsley?
No.
Me neither.
I wouldn't.
I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah. Wouldn't move Helsley, wouldn't move Fetty, wouldn't move any of those guys. And the other side of, like, right now, the Cardinals are right where they need to be from a divisional standpoint and a wild card standpoint. They're 1 game out of the wild card. But the problem there is the Diamondbacks have underperformed. The Braves have underperformed. The Brewers have underperformed. There's a bunch of teams behind the Cardinals where if all of a sudden they start to surge and you fall back in the wild card standings, and then your only path to the postseason is winning the division, then you start to look things differently. If you stay in the wild card race in addition to the divisional race where you've got multiple paths, then you look at it a little bit different.
All right, Matt, Steve jumped in on Facebook. He says, go get Skeens before the Yankees or Dodgers find the Pirates number. I mean, this is not making fun, Steve, because I've had plenty of Cardinals fans like, why not try, right?
Yeah.
Forget what it costs. The Pirates aren't trading him in the division.
No, they're not.
And they're not trading him this year. But when they do, it will not be within the Central Division.
Yeah,
I'd be comfortable saying that, and I would bet probably more the American League than the National League.
100%. The last thing they want is him coming back to PNC Park and sticking it up there, multiple times a year.
He is going to get traded. It's just a matter of when it is.
What Jeff Passan said recently, this is actually the time to do it.
I would do it this offseason.
Because you've got the opportunity to get the highest return.
If he's healthy this offseason, I'd probably do it if I'm them, because you're not keeping him.
I would run the algorithm. Like, I know they care about money.
Yeah.
If I'm their ownership, I would basically run the algorithm and say, is the bump that I get in attendance enough money that offsets what we're paying him? And as long
for now it is
because he doesn't make much money.
Right.
As long as that number is greater than the other, I'm thinking this through the Pirates' perspective.
Right.
I know what they value.
Right.
I keep Skeens as long as that extra gate at the ballpark is more than what we're paying him.
That's Matt Pauley. I'm Kevin Wheeler. Stick around. We got more of your comments, thoughts, opinions, questions coming up on the Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Last year, more clients hired Morgan & Morgan than ever before. We now have more offices, more staff, and more lawyers than any other injury firm in the world, protecting America, fighting for you.
Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
All right, guys, let's talk about our health. Now, I'm not talking about like going to your doctor and getting checked up, although you should be doing that. But if you've done that, like I have, and everything's good, you don't have any problems, but you're just not what you want to be. And in case I'm 53 years old. You don't recover from workouts the same way that you did. You're tired. You're dragging a little bit. Well, I went to Game Day Men's Health, and you can find them at GameDayMen'sHealth.com. And I can't even tell you how big the difference is in a 3-month window. It takes a little time to build up. I was put on the testosterone replacement therapy because when I went in, I did the initial consultation, which is what you'll do. And they do a blood test, and they tell you, okay, here's where you're deficient. Here's where we can help you. And that's what they could help me with. My numbers were low. I didn't do anything to make that happen, but I could do something to fix it. And that's what I'm doing with Game Day Men's Health. So whether you're looking at something like that, and for me, man, I don't have the same. I had a workout last night. I worked out last night while I was watching baseball, and I had not felt that good throughout a workout, rep to rep, set to set, since I was in college. It's been that long since it felt that good going through. And it wasn't an easy one last night either. Yesterday was a little bit of a heavy one. So whether you're dealing with stuff like that, maybe you're looking at medical weight loss, you're looking for ED treatments, or if you're a training athlete and you're getting ready for an event, they work with peptides as well. So they got a lot of options. Everything is overseen by board certified physicians. The staff are experts. They're awesome. It's a relaxed environment. You get one price explained up front. That's it. No big changes, nothing after that. All you got to do is check it out. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. You'll find them in Chesterfield, O'Fallon, Missouri, and Glen Carbon, Illinois. Get back to the top of your game with Game Day Men's Health.
Retiring soon? Get the information you need by joining Kyle Jones and Matt Allgeier of Fira Capital Management for your retirement highway, Sunday mornings at 9:30. Investment advisory services made available through Pine Ridge Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Securities made available through AE Financial Services, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC.
Traffic from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Well, they cleared the incident we had, the crash, or I guess it was a vehicle fire. I don't know. It was a result of a crash. The one that was northbound 170 at the Rock Road. Traffic's bogged down south of Olive up to it, but it's not a solid jam. It's getting better pretty quickly. South 170, still delays at the Parkway. Westbound 70, TRU's to Bryan Road, and then A to Z in the Wentzville area heavy. We had a recent minor crash out there. It looks like they cleared it. Westbound 64, Clayton Skinker to Big Bend is slow. Still bogged down 364 out to 70 after that. 270 northbound through 64, Ladou's a little busy. Southbound's back to normal. Southbound 55, barely a slowdown. Gasconade Bates looks good downtown, headed across the bridges as well. I'm Roger Brand at the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
You're listening to the Redbird Rush Hour on 1041 KMOX.
All right, 2 minutes left in the Redbird Rush Hour. Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here. You got Sports Open Line after the news. What do we got on Sports Open Line? Give us a tease.
Yeah, we're going to have Bernie Miklasz. He's going to be on today at 6:20. We'll talk a little City SC with Nate Bucati, who's going to be on the call this upcoming weekend. He's a Kansas City guy, so he may be basking in what happened last night for City, where they look terrible, losing a 2-0 lead, but such is life.
Not so great.
And Battlehawks player will join us today as well.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. All right, let's get to a text, Matt.
Okay, so a couple of comments here. So first off, Chris in Bloomsdale says, it's amazing how the Cardinals had a big question mark about the catching situation when Yachty retired.
Yeah.
Herrera should stay at DH because the rest of the catching staff is awesome. There was that period when Yachty was gone that they were trying to figure things out, and obviously it was clunky.
And that's why they brought in Contreras.
And everything that happened with the pitchers, and Andrew Kisner was around there for a little bit. But when you consider what's here now in Herrera, Pajes, what's on the way very close in Crooks, and what's on the way a little bit further back with Leonardo Bernal.
Man,
and
Bernal's good.
There's some other pieces in the organization as
Rainiel
well.
Rodriguez.
Yeah.
5 home runs already this year in like 12 games.
Yeah. So this is an area of organizational strength.
Yeah, it's
and
great.
At some point, not all these guys are going to be in the org. If Bernal shoots up, and all of a sudden you've got club control on Herrera, Pajes, and Crooks, you're going to have to make a decision.
Yeah, you'll have some guys to move in. Catchers are always valuable, so that's a good thing. Got another one or no?
We got a message on the video chat just saying from Ernest, who says being able to stay relatively healthy has been so big for the Cardinals.
That's the number one thing, obviously, between now and the deadline is you can't lose certain people.
Right.
And honestly, I probably would have said one of them was Herrera, but you survived that okay.
I think most of what you can't lose is pitching.
Yeah, I don't think you can lose starting pitching. You certainly can't lose more than one starter.
Right.
Because you have one ready. Like McGreevy's probably okay, and he'll give you a fighting chance when he pitches. If you lose more than one, it could get dicey.
It could. Let's give some credit where credit is deserved, because we will be very critical of the team when they do things that seemingly lead to injuries. They had a plan on limiting injuries this year, and it has worked. Now, the plan could have been a good plan, and it still didn't work. That's one of the things about baseball that's, so just because you make the right decision doesn't mean you get the right result. But I think they made the right decision on the way they were going to handle pitching this year, especially starting pitching. And now what's going to be interesting is what do they do when you get to a portion of the season where you don't have every Thursday off?
Well, then this is the other part too, and we only have a minute to cover this, but here's the other thing that is just something to keep in the back of your mind. How many innings are they going to let Matthew Liberatore throw this year?
Yeah, because there's that number that you don't want to cross.
How many innings are you going to let Palante throw this year?
I don't think there's worries about him.
He's never thrown more than he did last year. How much more can you go up?
Yeah.
I mean, not saying he's got less of a worry than Liberatore, but you still have that question for both of them. And then, how does Sonny hold up? what's Mike List giving you? Like, I think there are some interesting things to pay attention to.
And that's where the second half of the season, maybe McGreevy's a bigger part of what's going on.
Yeah, that's a good
point.
point.
Even if everybody else is healthy, maybe you still stick him, because I don't think Matz is your 6th starter anymore. I think it's McGreevy.
At least for the time being, because you need him in the back of the pen. Unless some other things emerge, you can change maybe later on in the year. All right, buddy. Good show. Good times. Sports Open Line coming up after the 6 o'clock news. That's Matt Pauley. I'm Kevin Wheeler. We have another Redbird Rush Hour tomorrow. It'll be a little shorter, but it'll be the two of us with Bernie Miklas. We're here for you in the 5 o'clock hour every day. We don't get pushed for a Cardinals game on KMOX.
The peace lily is